Hardy Siding and Siding Express. We specialize in James Hardy siding installation. Visit sidingexpress.com today to schedule a free consultation at sidingexpress.com. Next update at 5:20 from the michaelsflooringoutlet.com traffic center.
This is the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
We didn't address that, did we? How you doing, buddy? How you doing? I'm ready to talk some ball, man. Having a good time. I thought, this series this week couldn't have gone any better from a result standpoint, right? You can't do better than a sweep. But there's a lot of individuals there that are going great, too.
In the division, they sweep a series. They go 5-1 on this homestand. I mean, there's just so many positive things right now about this team.
I couldn't agree more. And it's not like we're not saying every problem's fixed, right? I mean, like that's a whole different thing than what we're talking about. This is more about like the direction. So you've won 5 in a row. You've won 7 of 9. You've won 10 of your last 15.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this has been a lot more things going right. There are things that still need to get better. We're still trying to figure out how they're going to establish some more depth at the back end of the bullpen when you have a lead. Right. And we saw a different way of doing that yesterday, which was interesting. And we can talk about that later on. But you're seeing continued strong starting pitching for the most part. Yeah, a couple of exceptions here recently. Miles and Eric Vetty weren't great in their last times out, but Sonny Gray's been great. Matthew Liberatore is just ascending. Like one of the best, not even kidding. He's one of the best pitchers in the National League through the first, 5-6 weeks of the season.
Yeah, you tweeted. I'll let you say it because it was really good numbers. And people, of course, can follow you on Twitter at Kevin Wheeler 94. But you went through some of his various rankings of where he's at. And it shows, again, early on in the season, small sample size, all the dumb disclaimers that we always do. But it's notable where he's at right now.
And the reason we do the disclaimers, by the way, is because somebody's always got to be a smartass. I throw this out there today, and I asked a question. It's just a conversation on Twitter. Is Matthew Liberatore turning into a star? Not he's a star, not he's arrived. Just is he turning? A few guys are like, it's a bit early for that. Like, no, it's not a bit early to ask if a guy that was a top 30 prospect in baseball is finally living up to the billing he had as a prospect. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not crazy to talk about a guy that was a part of one of the most controversial trades in this team's recent history. Right? I mean, this is a guy who is showing what you thought you might be getting. So again, it's only 7 starts. It's not like he's there, but he's 12th best in the National League in ERA. And his fielding independent is 2.3.
Mm-hmm.
His fielding independent is 0.7 of a run better than his real one, which means the defense isn't helping him. In fact, according to this, the defense, which is good, by the way, hasn't helped him at all. It's hurt him. He's got the 9th best expected ERA, which means he's actually been unlucky. His expected ERA is below his real one, which means he's been unlucky. He's first in the National League, maybe first in Major League Baseball in walks per 9 amongst starting pitchers. And then when you throw into this, he's gone 6 innings in every start that wasn't rained out. And outside of one start where he gave up 5 runs in 6 1/3, he's got a 2.33 ERA. And only 5 pitchers in the National League have more innings covering 7 starts. There are a few that have 8 starts that have more, but he's right up. In other words, he's as good as almost anybody in the National League at working deep into games. So is he a star? No. But he's showing you the characteristics that indicate that's at least a possibility in the coming years, whether that's this year, next year, whatever. It takes time to establish that.
There's also a lesson to be learned here because just because a guy's been around for a little while doesn't mean they've reached who they're going to be. And we
That's
can
right.
apply this to Jordan Walker. But when you look at Matthew Liberatore, he's 25 years old. Feels like he's older than that because of how long he's been around. Our boss, Steve Moore, said the other day in a text message with all of us, man, he looks a whole lot better than he did 2 years ago. Well, 2 years ago, he was 23 years old. There's people who graduate college. If you're a fifth-year guy in college, you're graduating at the age of 23. So that's the age of many college seniors.
Yeah.
Of course, he's going to look better at age 25 than he does age 23.
Well, I mean, again, I keep using Aaron Judge for these examples, mostly because everyone universally agrees that he's a Hall of Famer, that he's one of the best in a generation, right? One of the best players of his generation already. He didn't debut until he was 24, and he wasn't a full-time everyday major league player until he was 25.
Mm-hmm.
He was 21, 22. He was in college. So, like, when it comes to any player, we've got to be careful with this. And you have all these other examples, too, of late bloomers. Like Seth Lugo. People didn't think he could start. He was like 31 when he got a chance to start, and look at how good he's been. So, everybody progresses in a different way. And what we're seeing in Liberatore, and, keep in mind, this flashes back, Matt, to something that we talked about a while ago. This was during spring training. When I filled in for Tom on Sports on a Sunday, and I asked John Mozeliak about the rotation, and he specifically said, Matthew Liberatore is really catching our eye, and he started to do some things in the offseason that would help him sustain as a starter, and that he wasn't doing before, that he didn't understand before. So this is a combination of gaining some confidence from having success in the bullpen, figuring out new habits, new things that will help him sustain this kind of success. You saw him yesterday, Matt. He's throwing 96 and he's carrying his stuff into the seventh inning.
Yeah.
That's not something he did 2 years ago or a year ago.
He was asked about that after the game. Where did that come from? And he said, I don't know, but it was there and it stuck around. That's the key part. I mean, it's one thing to be able to throw 96 in the second or third inning or the fourth inning.
Yeah.
It's another thing to be approaching 100 pitches and to keep 96. That's I pumped the brakes on what I'm about to say, but at the same time, that's the stuff that elite dudes do. If you can still be pumping close to 100 at 100, you're in a really good spot.
Yeah, and this is the point, really, right? This is not saying that Matthew Liberatore has arrived. We don't know. 7 starts doesn't tell us that. But we're seeing the signs of things that studs do.
You're right.
And that's why it's exciting. We don't know if he's going to be healthy at the end of the year. We don't know if it's going to continue. We all acknowledge that. But it still isn't hard to dream a little bit when you're seeing these signs of not only think about it, a guy that has really good real numbers has better underlying numbers, right? So there's no red flags. The only red flag we might run into later on, Matt, is whether or not he's prepared to make 32 major league starts and go 6 innings and start for all those. That's the part we don't know because he hasn't done that.
No, he hasn't. And it's a good point by you.
And they're going to need to be careful about that later in the year, I think.
Right. And I mean, at some point in time, I don't know when we get to that point, at some point in time, you do start to look for opportunities where maybe a game's one-sided and he's thrown 75 pitches through 6 innings and you go ahead and get him out there as an opportunity. It's kind of the opposite. If a guy goes out there and is like flirting with a no-hitter and a manager allows him to go 110, 115, 120, well, for the next 2 or 3 starts, they are looking for 70 if they can get it just to help the guy survive. And so this is kind of the opposite of that, but I would not be completely against if some games start getting one-sided that he's pitching, go ahead and get him out of there for the day.
Totally agree.
Yeah, 100%. All right, it is 5:20. We'll take a break. We've got more of the Redbird Rush Hour coming up after this on KMOX.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, it's still working the crash on southbound 170. This traffic reports a service of the Penn Mutual midway between the Rock Road and Page down to Olive on South 170 right now. And northbound 170, you've got slow stuff through the Parkway to Ladue and from Natural Bridge up to Airport Road. Westbound 70 still busy. Union headed out through Jennings Station from the airport out to Cypress, right around 270 to the Blanchette. Both directions are kind of busy. Westbound slow at Mid Rivers, jammed at 79 briefly. Then it's slow through K. Lake St. Louis out past A, busy. If you're on 364, Youngerman through Mid Rivers is heavy. Southbound 270 still backs up It's slow at Page, jams through Olive to Ladue, but it remains heavy, backs up again. Clayton Road to Manchester, remains slow down to Big Bend, and 44 down to Gravois. Westbound 44 from Jameson all the way to Elm, and from Lindbergh, pockets all the way out to west of 141. Southbound 141, a solid jam at Carmen. Westbound Manchester from Mason all the way almost to Henry's on the brakes. Southbound 55, bumper to bumper. South of 44 all the way down to Bates. Looks a lot better in Jefferson County. Westbound 44 backed up downtown through the bridges. Are you considering life insurance? Penn Mutual's accelerated client experience makes applying for life insurance fast and easy. Ask your independent advisor or go to pennmutual.com/STL. Next update at 5:30 from the Michaels Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
The smartest way to do your homework is Hackman Lumber.
Warm weather means homework for homeowners. And for 80 years, Hackman Lumber has been the trusted name for home improvement. If your homework means a new deck, turn to the deck experts at Hackman Lumber. Browse the largest inventory of decking materials and accessories in Missouri. Talk with our experts about treated lumber, cedar, TimberTech, Trex, Envision, Decorators, and Duralife to find the perfect deck for you. Choose from endless railings, balusters, and LED deck lighting options. Hackman Lumber has been serving homeowners and pros for 80 years, and they will not be undersold on in-stock decking materials guaranteed. Whether you DIY with their expert advice or need a trusted contractor, Hackman has you covered. They are now an authorized steel dealer and stock a huge selection of grills. So celebrate summer with a new Big Green Egg, pellet grills, Weber gas, or charcoal grill, and all the accessories you need for the perfect backyard setup. Visit Hackman Lumber's showrooms in St. Charles, Pacific, and Troy, Missouri, or hackmanstl.com.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was going to unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Welcome to Staples.
Hi, I hear Staples prints it all.
Oh, you bet. Posters, banners.
Can you print it all for Father's Day?
Oh, of course. Photo gifts like canvas prints, photo puzzles.
Can you print it all for graduation?
Sure can. Custom cards and invites.
Can you print a huge banner with the grad's picture?
Oh, definitely.
Even an embarrassing baby picture?
Oh, those are the best kind.
I know, right?
Print it all for dads and grads at Staples. And right now, get 40% off custom cards, invites, and photo gifts. N75 exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details.
Hi, Mia here at the winnings desk of the Missouri Lottery. With 56 million winning tickets last year, anyone can win big. So set your destination to winning, like gas stations, grocery stores, or anywhere you can buy a ticket. The Missouri Lottery. Winners welcome and play responsibly.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. Last year, more clients hired Morgan & Morgan than ever before. We now have more offices, more staff, and more lawyers than any other injury firm in the world. Protecting America, fighting for you.
Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 1041 KMOX.
That's Kevin Wheeler. I'm Matt Pauley. We're rolling on with the Redbird Rush Hour right here on KMOX. Cardinals won earlier today. They go 5-1 on this homestand. And Kevin, one of the things that we saw back-to-back days of the starting pitcher going 7 innings. Sonny Gray today, Liberator yesterday. That does a lot of things. It helps set up your bullpen a little bit. As a team, you got a little bit of swagger when your starting pitcher's in control like that. There's such value. And this was the idea of the 6-man rotation, in addition to being healthy, about allowing guys to go deeper into games. And they'll still have that with the off days coming up in the month of May. But it's really good what we saw these last 2 days.
Yeah, especially Sonny Day. He only needed 89 pitches. 89 through 7 is crazy good. And Liberator, even 100 through 7 is totally fine. Like, there's absolutely nothing weird about that. 90 through 6 is kind of normal.
Right.
15 pitches an inning is kind of the guidepost. And when you're below that, you're really efficient. It means you're really tough. So, couple things on this. I mean, one, this is exactly what you need. And I just want to be clear about this. I am going to be kind of a jerk to the Pirates. But this is what you have to do to bad lineups.
Yes. Yeah.
You got to shove.
Yeah.
You got to shove against bad lineups. That's a bad lineup. If I were the Pirates owner, I'd be embarrassed. I have Paul Skeens, and I'm doing nothing to maximize his time. And I know I'm not going to have him long term. I know it. I'm not going to be able to pay him $45 million a year.
You have Paul Skeens, Jared Jones, even though he's injured. You have
Mitch Keller.
You have
You
David
got good
Bednar.
starting pitching there.
Yeah.
And then you got Bubba Chandler in the minor leagues, who's basically putting up the same numbers now in AAA that Skeens did last year at AAA before he came up. They're loaded with pitching, and they just won't do anything. So everybody else in the Central should celebrate that. Celebrate that and the fact that Skeens won't be in the division much longer, maybe 2 more years. And then they'll trade him for a big package of players.
Man, they're terrible. That's a
they're awful
baseball team.
I mean, you've got 2 really good hitters. O'Neill is a stud. Reynolds is close to a stud. McCutchen used to be a stud, and now he's just adequate, right? Like now he's just a solid hitter. That's it. You got nothing else. Bart is okay, but he's like a 7-hole hitter, and he's batting cleanup. That lineup's trash.
Yeah.
And by the way, but the good news though is, and again, this is not to denigrate the Cardinals' pitching performances because they dominated it. They didn't just come out there and kind of skate by and give up 3 or 4 runs. They just shut them down, which is what you want to see when you're facing this. And, because it's going to be tougher. You're going to get, Washington's got a better lineup than that, and James Wood's a star. We know Philly's got a better lineup than that. The Royals don't. You might be able to do some of the same stuff against the Royals. But I was really impressed. Like, this is what you do when you're facing lesser offenses. You shove, and they did.
Yeah, a 3-city road trip coming up again. The Cardinals are back at 500 right now. They're in a tie for first place or second place with the Brewers. The Reds, if they win tonight, they would pull even as well. So 3 teams that are all sitting against standings and record and all that stuff. It doesn't matter, but it is, I think, for fans, it's good to see 500. It's good to see progress. It's good to see these things.
Yeah, when you can get over the 500 mark and hang in there for a while, that's going to give people a little bit more comfort.
That's Kevin Wheeler. I'm Matt Pauley. You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour. We've still got a lot to get to. We'll take you till 6 o'clock tonight. Then I've got you for Sports Open Line after that. More of the Redbird Rush Hour comes your way in just a moment right here on your home for the Cardinals, 104.1 FM KMOX.
Farming's hard. To feed the world, farmers have to work the land, brave the elements, and fight the battle against weeds. Weeds reduce crop yields, so prices go up and everybody gets less to eat. But 50 years ago, farmers got a new tool to fight weeds, glyphosate. It kills weeds while protecting the harvest. Time and again, it has been approved by the EPA and by leading regulatory bodies around the world. It helps enable practices that reduce erosion.
TrustandWill.com, offer code RADIO. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. Visit trustandwill.com for details.
If you owe the IRS, you have a legal issue, and you need the Lance Drury Law Firm. We'll protect your rights. Log on at LanceDruryLaw.com.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 1041 KMOX.
With Kevin Wheeler, I'm Matt Pauley. Redbird Rush Hour continuing on for about another 25 minutes or so before we get out of here for Sports Open Line at 6 o'clock. Cardinals win today. Kevin, I think it's interesting to look at the way the bullpen was used for all 3 days. First off, starting pitching helps put the bullpen in order, but really good bullpen performances. That first game, which you really needed to win for on the Skeens game, they went with their standard back into the bullpen with Leahy, Maton, and Helsley. That was a game where a missed call on a replay with Victor Scott being ruled they didn't score forced them into using their high leverage guys. Graceffo threw an inning there as well. Yesterday, those high leverage guys weren't available, so we saw Matson, Graceffo cover it. And then today, while Leahy does pitch, once they got to a 5-run game, they were able to find a really good spot to get Chris Roycroft in. So I like the way
That was great.
The bullpen played out over these 3 days.
I just thought it was funny because you and we text a lot during games, or I text you and you're working and I'm bothering you one way or the other. But, I was a little confused in game one as to why Graceffo came out going into the 7th inning and why they went to Leahy in that spot, because Graceffo has looked great these last 2 times out. He was throwing 97 and they didn't touch him. He threw 11 pitches to get 3 outs in the 6th. And you had the bottom 3 guys in the order up. So what better way to see if you can trust Graceffo, by the way, with a 3-run lead, not a 1-run lead, but a 3-run lead against the bottom 3 guys in the order. Now, I get it. You and I, when we talked about this, I think there's a valid point to be made that you really wanted to get that game because of what was coming the next day with Skeens. But my counter was, well, you also have Libertor, who's been as hot as anybody, which means it's going to be close late. And then it turned out that way, and they had to go a different route. But the good news is it worked. It worked because Graceffo was able to bounce back the next day and look just as good, and because Matz did a good job. And if Matz isn't going to be in the rotation, I think that's where they need him. I think they need him. And, hey, look, I don't mean don't use him for 2 innings at a time here and there. But, man, how much better does that back end look? How many more options you have? Look, Matz is your best guy out there. Right now, he's better than Romero and King.
Mm-hmm.
And I really thought that worked out really well. So it was funny how it worked, right? The thing you didn't want Graceffo to do in the 7th inning with a 3-run lead is what he had to do the next day in the 9th inning with a 1-run lead, but he pitched great. So worked out.
I want to get into kind of who's on the list of who you trust. We'll do that in just a moment. But first, let's get a quick look at traffic.
Traffic from the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
Well, we still got our trouble on the inner belt. This traffic reports the service of financial and tax strategies. That crash still blocking everything but the left lane southbound 170 at Olive. It's a solid jam back to about the Rock Road. After that, it's not as big of a deal. North 170 still slow. 70 up to Airport Road. Westbound 70 Kings Highway through Jennings Station. It's still slow past the airport from 79 most of the way to Bryan Road and A to Z in the Wentzville area. After that, South 270, a solid jam from Page to Ladue. Slow after that down through to about Manchester. Both directions really between Doherty Ferry and Ladue are kind of slow right now. Weather is in the area in general. Westbound Highway 64, Boyle out to McCausland's backed up from Hanley all the way to Ballas. Some of it stop and go. Clarkson to Topgolf. A little busy at K, and then west of Wingate to 70. Eastbound 64 from 94 through the Boone Bridges bumper to bumper. If you're on southbound 141, north of Ladue to 64, south of right around, north of Big Bend, south of Carmen, it's jammed into Valley Park. Westbound Manchester, Barrett Station 141's on the brakes. Westbound 44, still slow, River to Pear, out to Elm, Lindbergh, all the way to west of 141's bumper to bumper. Southbound 55, Arsenal, down through Bates is busy. Westbound 44, still heavy through the bridges. I'm Roger Brand at the MichaelsFlooringOutlet.com Traffic Center.
It's never too early to start thinking about your retirement journey, and it's never too late either. You just need to know that the steps may look a little different. Listen to Wealth and Wisdom with Gary Goldberg, Saturday mornings at 7 here on KMOX.
This is the Redbird Rush Hour on 1041 KMOX.
All right, we're keeping the conversation going as we talk through the bullpen situation. The Cardinals, Kevin, we know that they've been pretty confident all year long in that group of final 3 with Leahy, Maton, and Helsley. The problem has been they haven't been able to trust anybody else. And with
Yeah.
Steven Matz seemingly out of the rotation, they're sticking with a 5-man now. And then this is a moment by moment sort of thing. But I think right now you can feel good about Gordon Graceffo, even with 2 more guys that you trust. That can change a lot of things.
It changes everything, right? I mean, it really does. That's what they had last year. When you had used, either Kittredge or Romero, because Romero for the first part of the year last year was as good as anybody. When you had used one of those guys and they were kind of tired, you couldn't use them another. You were fine with Ryan Fernandez. You were fine going to the next group. They had 5 guys last year, not even counting King, but they had 5 guys last year that they could trust from the 6th or 7th inning on when you had a lead. And a lead you had to protect too, right? I'm not talking about a 7-run lead or whatever. And it just having that extra trust. I think Steven Matz is in the circle of trust, whether he's starting or relieving. And he's got good enough stuff to be back there. I know he probably doesn't want to be back there. But I would bet, I don't know Steven Matz. I've not asked him this, but I would think you'd kind of prefer to be in those situations than be held back as a long reliever.
He has told me that he would rather be a starter. Now I haven't had
no, for sure.
I haven't had that conversation with him, say, in the last month. I think the last time we even talked about that was probably around winter warmup. So it's not even a conversation I've had with him.
Of course he
this
wants
year.
that. Yeah.
So let's take a step back and have a moment of appreciation for Steven Matz, because
absolutely
Oliver Marmol has made it very clear that Matz has said, I'm willing to do whatever you need me to do, whatever is best for the team. So you got a guy who his ability to be at his best is probably as a starting pitcher, and that's what he wants to do. But looking at where the Cardinals are at right now, he knows he can help this team by being in the bullpen. And if injuries start to happen and things like that, he's still going to have he's going to start games at some point this year. This is not going to be a 100% bullpen, but the team looks so much better when you have 5 guys out of the bullpen that you can trust.
I think, we talked about this last week, and I know, again, I do feel for the pitcher. I feel for Steven Matz. He signed here to be a starting pitcher. He was a free agent. He got a multi-year contract to be a starting pitcher. That's what he signed up for. But because of injuries, he's kind of been pushed back a little bit. And I mean injuries in the past couple of years, right? If he had been healthy and pitching well these last couple of years, he'd be in there. But at this point, they don't have that luxury. And the team, to win games, needs more that they can count on late in games. They just do. And he's the guy that can provide. Miles doesn't provide that. I mean, if Miles is in the pen, and you and I disagree on this just a little bit, if he's in the pen, he's got to be just a long reliever.
Yeah.
He can't be a leverage guy. He can't be the guy, we got a 2-run lead protected in the 7th inning. That really can't be him right now.
We keep previewing the conversation. We'll do it tomorrow because it deserves a full segment's worth of talk.
This is a long one.
Yeah, with Michaelis versus Matz in the bullpen and what that looks like. But I feel so much more comfortable. And am I counting on Gordon Graceffo a little bit? Yeah, I am. And could the wheels fall off for him? Obviously. Of course they could. But the fact that his velo has ticked up, he's got that presence on the mound. He worked really hard in the offseason. And Ollie talked about it yesterday in postgame, how they feel like Graceffo, if he's going to make an impact on this team this year, it's going to come as a relief pitcher. And he showed what he could do. And just the idea that they felt comfortable enough to put him in the 9th inning yesterday. And also something they did yesterday, which I think was key, because we talked so much about making sure that the matchups work out well. They went with Matz in the 8th inning when you were facing the top of the order for the Pirates. They're a couple 2-3 legit hitters.
Yeah, I mean, Cruz struggles with lefties more than righties for sure. Yeah.
And then you got Graceffo in to cover the middle of the order to the bottom of the order. Like it was perfect placement for Graceffo.
Yep, I agreed. And he's a guy that, again, you're right. This is not a lock. He feels good at the moment because we've seen him the last 3 times be awesome. Right. I mean, he came in relief and threw 5 innings and he was awesome. And then the other night he went 1 inning and he was awesome. And then yesterday he was 1 inning and he was awesome. So we're a little bit victim of the moment, but guess what? That's kind of what rules bullpens.
100%.
You got to play hot hands.
Yeah. That's why I don't really like giving relief pitchers multi-year contracts, because I think it is such a fickle spot that things can go really well or really bad at any given moment. And you kind of need to stay fluid down there. And
look at Devin Williams.
I mean, he's fallen apart. He's got a +10 ERA with the Yankees this year.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. Like you did not see that coming. And that happens. And I think Devin Williams is a really good pitcher, and he's going to find it again. But that's what happened. That's the nature of the beast when it comes to relief pitching. And you hope that things have stabilized out a little bit, because we've talked about it a ton, Kevin. Overall offensive numbers for the Cardinals, just fine. The starting pitching, just fine. What's held them back has been the bullpen. And if they can get more consistent relief pitching, this team is going to win more games than a lot of people expect them to.
I would agree. I think the starting pitching's been more than good enough. Yeah, look, there are problems in the lineup, right? Like Walker's struggling badly. Gorman hasn't figured it out. But there are other guys counterbalancing that. Victor Scott is dynamic.
Yeah, we're going to talk about him a little bit in our next segment. Also talk about Mason Wynn coming up.
Wynn since his slow start has been dynamic.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like Contreras. They both kind of have the same kind of start to the year, but I think that there's an opportunity there, especially with Herrera probably coming back Friday, where the lineup gets even better.
We'll talk Mason Wynn and Victor Scott II in our next segment. You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX.
Hey guys, Glover here for my friends at Cantor Injury Law. So as you know, I'm a lawyer, haven't practiced in a long time, but I did plaintiff's work and defense work, so I have a pretty good understanding of it. I have a pretty good idea of who's who in the firmament of plaintiffs' attorneys. And for my money, Mark Cantor.
Now, again, weather could be an issue. Southbound 55 still slow. South of Arsenal down to Bates, but it looks okay in Jefferson County after that. I'm Roger Brand in the Michael's Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 1041 KMOX.
It is the Redbird Rush Hour. Just a few more minutes left of the program today. Sports Open Line begins after the 6 o'clock news. I'm Matt Pauley. That's Kevin Wheeler. Kevin, let's get to today's Game Day Men's Health Peak Performer.
Yeah, this is there are a lot of options here, really. Guys are doing. We've talked about a bunch of different guys. We talked about Liberatore before yesterday's game. We've talked about Wilson Contreras, who's been red hot. Let's talk a little bit about Mason Wynn as our Game Day Men's Performance Peak Performer. Get back to the top of your game. with Game Day Men's Health. They're in Chesterfield, O'Fallon, Missouri, and Glen Carbon, Illinois. So Mason Wynn got off to the terrible start, right? He had an awful spring. We talked about it all spring long. Things we were worried about. His chase rate. He was not getting good pitches to hit. And before his injury, he was struggling a little bit, or quite a bit, actually. He struggled really badly out of the gate. But how about this, Matt? So over the last 28 days, and that's not a full 28 days. He missed a little time there. But over the last 28 days, he's got an 835 OPS. Over the last 14 days, it's 910. Over the last week, it's 1100. And for the season now, he's 8% above league average offensively, and he's playing top-tier defensive shortstop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think – I mean, and he's finally – I hope this will continue – starting to use his speed on the base paths, stealing a bag here and there. And then today, how about that today? Busting it out of the box on a little blooper that barely clears the infield and turning it into a double.
Gets a double out of it, yeah.
Impact guy.
Look, you mentioned the numbers going back further, and that's true. But even just since he's been in the 2-hole, I ran the numbers today. As a 2-hitter, he's hitting 360 with an OPS at close to 1,200. That's a 760 slug and a 429 on base.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the OBP, right? And that's one thing that's, we talked a while ago about some of the underlying stuff and what's better. He's chasing less this year, which means he makes more sense in the 2 spot, right? You got Nootbaar on base all the time. You've got Wynn, who's got the speed to make some things happen. And then you got some protection behind him because Brendan Donovan's been hot all year. I like Wynn in that spot. I don't like him as a leadoff hitter, but I do like him there sandwiched between 2 other good hitters.
Yeah, and he got the opportunity to drive in Victor Scott II today.
Yeah.
And holy moly, did we see some. So Scott scores from
crazy,
first on a base hit where he gets around the bases in less than 10 seconds, the 6th fastest time in Major League Baseball this year, with a little bit of a stutter around second.
He stumbled, yeah.
It could have been even faster. And then
because it was a line drive. I think he kind of like, as he
waiting.
was stealing,
Right.
he's running and he looked because you hear the crack of the bat, you peek. And he hesitated a little bit, but he picked back up to full speed pretty quick.
And he scores from first on a double to left. Well,
Yeah.
that we just talked about. It was really more of a single that Wynn turns into the double. So that is, man, that's fun. Like people who say, oh, why should I show up to the ballpark? This team isn't any good. Well, A, the team's better than you think they are. And B, reason to show up for the ballpark to watch Victor Scott II and Mason Wynn do their things.
I mean, winning is always the most exciting thing.
Yeah.
Right. But obviously, and I don't think a 5 or 10 game window is going to convince people, but there are a lot of dudes to get excited about. I mean, Liberatore seeming like he's ascending, Mason Wynn doing what he's doing, Ivan Herrera coming back now, the way that bat looked, obviously Victor Scott, it's not perfect. Gorman and Walker haven't joined that parade, but you still got a bunch of young dudes that are showing up. And hopefully more. I mean, you got to hope that Walker figures it out. I'm just kind of hoping, Matt. I'm hoping that the trend becomes he's just a slow starter, and then he figures it out as it goes. I'm hoping that's the path that it goes for Walker.
We could have a roster move in front of Friday night, and because Ivan Herrera is likely to be activated by then. And it was good to see Lucan Baker get a big hit today, but it still feels like they may be leaning in the direction of sending Baker back to AAA and keeping 3 catchers.
You and Bernie and I talked about that Friday. I think it makes all the sense in the world, especially now that I looked it up and I see Pozo's played like 80 games at first base in the minors.
Yeah.
Like that gives you your emergency sub, it gives you that flexibility at the end of a game if you need to do something.
Baker,
because everybody else that plays first, aside from Contreras, can play everywhere else too.
Right. Yeah. You'd love to find a way to have everybody there, but that's not the way it works. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for Baker.
Hey, maybe better for Baker.
It might be.
Just like we've talked about with Ryan Fernandez and others. And Baker's never been a bench guy.
And he's not hitting home runs right. Even with the double day, he's not hitting home runs right now. So go find that home run swing.
Yeah.
Kevin, good stuff. We'll see you tomorrow for a full show.
Yeah, I'll be in studio tomorrow. We're back to normal after this.
That's Kevin Wheeler. I'm Matt Pauley. We're done with the Redbird Rush Hour, but Sports Open Line is next on KMOX.
The following heartwarming yet informative scene is brought to you by Trust and Will.
Son, your grandpa and I used to work on this car together, and when I'm gone, I want you to have it.
Wow, thanks,